Normality is slowly returning, but very slowly. This week, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced eased alert level 3 regulations. And this gives some sort of relief to the tourism sector as well, as they will now be able to resume some more of its operations. Under the eased regulations, accredited and licensed accommodation will operate with the exception of home sharing. The Gauteng Tourism Authority on Thursday held a webinar to understand the nature and the impact of the pandemic even further. Its spokesperson joins me now live via Skype here in Gauteng. I'm joined by Barba Gaoganediwe. Barba, thank you so much for joining us. The tourism sector, of course, a sector within South Africa's economy and society that was one of the first to be hit by the impact of COVID-19, because it spoke to the movement of people, both internationally and even more so at home. You had this webinar on Thursday to get a closer understanding of what you are currently dealing with, those in your sector. What are some of the learnings that you were able to take away from the different players and stakeholders in tourism here in Gauteng?
No, thank you very much, and good morning to the viewers. It indeed was an eye-opener. Sometimes when you work with the sector, there are certain things that hamper their progress or delay their progress. And some of the things that were raised during the engagement was the continued challenge around some of our attractions and facilities having to now live with the new normal, install the required infrastructure, stick to the protocols, because all of this happens under the backdrop of plummeting revenues. Over 200,000 jobs are estimated to be lost in the sector due to COVID-19. But the sector is quite resilient, and participants reaffirmed that point that we have seen wars, we have seen other diseases before, and certainly with COVID-19, the sector will come back very strong because of its resilience. What we have been doing is to de-risk the sector, to make sure that we work tirelessly with the sector to install all the required infrastructure, but to obviously prepare for the eventual opening.
What did you make of some of the new easing of regulations announced by the President and indeed by the various portfolios in Cabinet? How will that impact tourism? Because, of course, I spoke to, would have been your colleagues in the Western Cape, who have said that they desperately need at least domestic travel, maybe even just to begin with interprovincially before you can cross borders provincially, so that people can at least take mini breaks from their lockdown at home and we can get some money and funds moving in the tourism sector, at least for those offering accommodation for short stays, as it were. What does your sector in Gauteng make of the slight easing of regulations pertaining to the tourism business?
Well, we have been aware of the government risk-adjusted strategy, so we had to adapt to it. It's a phased-in approach. All what we need to do is to implement with optimism, but with utmost caution. The health and safety of our visitors and our locals is of our utmost priority. So we want to open the sector with total care and dedication. We have seen the easing down of travel for business. As you know, Gauteng is a heartbeat of business events and business in general. So we really welcome that. We welcome the opening of restaurants, particularly restaurants that are found in our townships. As you know, restaurants hire a lot of young people, hire a lot of women, and these are the vulnerable sectors that have bear the brunt of this invisible enemy. So certainly the easing down of certain restrictions, the opening up of parks, leisure reserve, nature reserves will enable our people to go out to the Sekerbosrand, to go and do the hiking and the like. What is important is for locals to start showing confidence in our own infrastructure, hence the emphasis on making sure that all the protocols are followed. Domestic tourism is going to be the backbone of our recovery, and South Africans people of Gauteng, when they tour their own backyard, when they become tourists in their own backyard, that's how we're going to instill confidence to the multitudes that is outside our borders wanting to come and visit Gauteng.
Are you hopeful and are you appealing to authorities that they start perhaps looking at allowing at least travel within people's provinces for leisure purposes?
We have already started with the restaurants being opened. Like I've said, this is a cautious approach. We are balancing livelihoods with life. It's not an easy task. As the sector, we have developed protocols that will guide the ease down of the regulation. We've been working very hard. So we are quite pleased with how the things have been progressing. We are hopeful that we will not also want to be like other countries. So we are learning as we are going. This is a moving target. We've seen how other countries that have opened very quickly are now closing down. We don't want to follow suit. We are following the risk-adjusted strategy, and we think gradually we are getting there. And the sector is very pleased with how this is what is coming out of this webinars. We are having another one this coming Monday where we'll be talking to associations. As you know, tourism it's government-led, private sector-driven, community-based, and labor-intensive. All these components forms an important core. No sector is important than the other. So these conversations help us to develop that important pact that we hope once everything is implemented will be on our path to recovery. Right now we're focusing on relief measures. We're focusing on how to help establishment and tourist attraction gather information. We'll be moving to reignition and then later on to the reimagining of the destination, when we are hopefully we will be again on path to double digits growth that we have enjoyed before.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for that update. That's the spokesperson for the Gauteng Tourism Authority, Barba Gaoganediwe, joining us live there via Skype here in Johannesburg.